Hi, I'm Evie Blad. I'm a reporter at Education Week. I cover social emotional learning, student engagement, and school climate. I'd love to hear from any of you who want to tell me what's going on in those areas in your district. I'm here with Chris Chatmon, who's the Director of African American Male Achievement for the Oakland School District. Chris has been invited to the White House to talk about his work, so I'm sure 10 minutes will be plenty of time to tell you all about it. Chris, I'd really like to talk kind of an overarching question that folks have been asking as President Obama has launched his My Brother's Keeper initiative. There's this idea from folks outside of education and sometimes inside of it that we need to chip away at every problem and every issue at the same rate. The districts have a limited amount of resources, so we need to just sort of spread them thinly and hope for the best. And this is a different approach to say we're going to concentrate in one area. We're going to concentrate on one population, and some folks don't understand that. So can you talk about the philosophy behind that and also why this is a population that superintendents need to take some focus on?
Sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to shine light and give voice to something that's not only real in Oakland, but really it's a real issue throughout this country. The framing for why we're focusing on the needs of African American males within Oakland Unified School District is really grounded in the theory of action by John Powell, targeted universalism. We know that universal structures do not meet the needs of all children, and children are located very differently in an ecosystem. Equity does not mean equal. So what we have to acknowledge when we look at the data, that there has been historically a group that our public school system has underserved. And if we understand how they're located through targeted universalism and direct those supports and services to those students furthest away from opportunity or who we believe serve, it actually impacts all students. And so the rationale why we're focusing on the needs of black boys really is because Oakland Unified School District has underserved black boys for generations. And by moving them to the center and looking at what are the policies, what are the practices, what are the systems and structures, and ultimately the culture that holds that to be true, then African American males will move up and actually it'll improve the educational outcomes of all children, as well as leave a structure, an infrastructure for whatever those students then who are most marginalized. There's a theory of action, a set of strategies for our listening campaign, an equity analysis of engaging those students or those families and communities who haven't had voice to actually have voice and to give life to what those strategies that they identify that will work to kind of seed into the system. And so that's the rationale for why we're doing what we're doing. We're 4.5 years in to the work, but I say that we're really at a point right now, we're only scratching the scratch of the service. And so having a superintendent, a visionary former superintendent, because I'm now in my third superintendency, as our former superintendent, Tony White, who really leveraged white privilege and had the audacity to create a place and space where we could talk about race and we can talk about class and culture and leverage that in service of African American male students, took audacious courage and vision and leadership. He called this out in 2010. My Brother's Keeper didn't take root until 2013, 14.
Right.
And so with that being said, that's a little rationale on why we're doing what we're doing. But it's not in isolation of any other student. It's actually with the intent of bringing those furthest out in the spirit of serving all.
A rising tide lifts all boats.
That's right.
You make a change for your population that has the most unrecognized needs, and it affects everyone, right?
That's right.
One thing that's really interesting is that in those 4.5 years, you've had 2 turnovers of superintendents. A new leader comes into your district, and I'm sure has all kinds of things that they see that they want to do differently. Folks I talked to about you said that if a superintendent came into Oakland and said he wanted to get rid of this program, that he'd have a line of people out of his office from the community saying, don't. I wonder how important is community buy-in for this, and how do you get it, particularly when we're talking about this approach of that isn't as common in education. It's getting more common, but isn't as common. And how has that community buy-in helped you in what you do?
Sure. So when I got appointed back in 2010, one of the brothers that came out to support me and Tony was an extraordinary brother by the name of Ron Walker, who leads the Coalition of Schools Educating Boys of Color. And one of the things that he said to me that I really appreciated, and it resonated with me professionally, knowing I'm doing what I do because it's my passion and my purpose. But he said, Brother Chatmon, your work is really about creating this conspiracy of care. You have to build the collective will of the people in the system and within the city to really take stock on why this work is really our collective work. And so really from day one, I've welcomed people that disagree. I've welcomed people asking questions around African American male achievement, why black boys, all in the spirit of, one, building community and shared understanding, but ultimately having people repeat after me. And actually, if you can repeat it after me, I am African American male achievement. My work is done when I have white women who hold the same passion and purpose and the conviction for aligning their values and professional skill sets and competencies to serve black boys. When I have Asian brothers that are able to talk with the same passion, the conviction and purpose for supporting African American male achievement. And so I say all this to say, really, all of the work has really been grounded in building the collective will of people to understand why this is so important. And then serving black boys is actually serving the needs of all children. And so that's been our journey. We still have a long way to go, but that was a strategy from the get-go, knowing, again, when I was introduced, I was a department of one. And the people that really allowed us to get this far was 45 extraordinary volunteers that went deep and did the equity analysis, facilitated the listening campaign, that produced a 100-plus page document that we presented to the school board, making recommendations to the board, which would be embedded into the strategic plan. But that was all volunteer-based. And so I say that to say that I stand here representing, I won't say a gazillion, but many extraordinary people that really believe in this work as well. So, on that level, it was really about empowering, informing the superintendent, but also getting a sense of what that superintendent's vision was, so I can kind of calibrate and show and evolve the work to help meet their vision and need as well. And so I don't lead in isolation of our superintendents or the community. Really, you have to listen to lead, and that's what we've been following.
Okay, great. And I think we're out of time, unfortunately. I really encourage you all to find Chris and chat with him. He's very passionate about his work, and I'm sure that he can talk to you more specifically about how it would apply in your school. So thank you very much. A round of applause for Chris, please.
All right. Thank you.